Hi friends, my name is Akil Ahmed, and in this particular video tutorial I will show you how you can migrate the data from Salesforce to SQL Server and vice versa. So the agenda of today's video tutorial is that how we can migrate the data from Salesforce to SQL Server table, and then we will also see how we can migrate data from SQL Server to Salesforce. So migrating the data from Salesforce to SQL Server is very common these days. A lot of companies are migrating their data from the Salesforce to SQL Server. In this particular video, we will use the SSIS Data Flow components from Devart, and they are also the sponsor of this particular video as well. So if you go to their website, then you will see that they are offering a lot of different components for different purposes. For example, we have the SSIS Data Flow components for Salesforce. Okay, so you can download their software and it's free for 30 days. Okay, so they have the components for the Salesforce, which makes it very easy to fetch the data from the Salesforce and insert the data into the Salesforce as well. So you can make the Salesforce connection manager, and then you can use their source component, and in the source component they have the source editor where you can actually see all the columns in a particular table, and you can write the queries here, and you can also use the variables as well. Okay, and then they have the Salesforce destination as well, and using the Salesforce destination you can actually insert the data into the Salesforce table. So without wasting further time, let's jump to the demo. So I have this particular SSIS package which is right now empty, and first we will try to fetch data from the Salesforce and we'll migrate the data into the SQL Server table. So I have a account on the Salesforce. So first of all, let me log into my account. My user ID is this one, and then let me try to log into the account. Alright, so I have logged in into my account. Okay, alright, so if you click on the object manager, so we have different type of objects here. For example, we have account object, address object, a lot of different objects are here, like cart object, campaign, case. So we will try to fetch data from the account object. So if you want to see like how many records are there in the account object, so you can use the developer console app as well. So you need to click on this particular icon, setup, and then there is a developer console as well. So in the developer console you can write the SQL query. So the query is very much similar to the SQL query. So you need to click on the query editor, and then you can write the SQL query here. So I have actually already written a query for fetching the data from the account table. So I can copy this particular query from here, and then I can paste it here. Now if I execute the query, so you can see the data here. So these are the 13 rows in the account table on the Salesforce side. Okay, so we are using a query here. However, if you are using the Salesforce source component from Devart, then it will generate the source query automatically, and you can actually preview the data there. Okay, so this is the data, like 13 records. So we will try to migrate this data into the SQL Server table. So let's open the SSIS package. So this is my blank SSIS package that you will be using today to migrate the data. Because you want to migrate data, so you will be using the data flow task. So I have drag and drop the data flow task into the control flow window, and I can call this Salesforce to SQL Server. Okay, now I can double click on the data flow task, and now because our source will be the Salesforce, so we can type Salesforce here, and it will show us the components related to Salesforce. So we have the Devart Salesforce source. So I can just drag and drop the Devart Salesforce source into the data flow task, and now we can just right click on the source component and we can edit it. Now inside the Salesforce connection, we need to make a connection to the Salesforce. So I can click on the drop down, and here we need to click on create new connection manager. Alright, so here we need to provide all these settings, like what is the host name, what is user ID, password, and the security token. So the host name you can find actually in the email when you created the account on the Salesforce. So if I go to my Gmail address and if I search for the Salesforce, like verify your account, so when I created the account, so I got this particular email like thanks for signing up with the Salesforce. So I got this particular URL. Okay, So this is the host name, so I can copy this particular URL from here, okay, and I can paste it here. And my user ID is my email address, so I can type the user ID here, okay, and then I can provide the password here. So this password is the Salesforce account password when you created an account on the Salesforce, okay, and when you signed up for the Salesforce, then this is that particular password, okay. Now the last thing is the security token. So here you need to provide the security token. So for example, if you don't know what is your security token, so you can go to the profile, click on the settings, and then there is an option here, reset my security token. So you can click on this particular option and then click on this one, reset security token, okay. So they are saying we send a new security token to the email address for your account akil33@gmail.com. So I should have got an email from the Salesforce. So you can see that your new Salesforce security token is this one. This is case sensitive, okay. So I can simply copy this particular security token from here, copy this one and paste it here inside this particular text box. So we have provided the host name, user ID, passwords and the security token. So now we can click on the test connection. So you can see that the connection is successful. So I can click on OK. OK. So the Devart Salesforce connection manager has been created and it has fetched all the tables from the Salesforce. Because I want to read data from the account table, so what I will do, I will click on the account table. So as soon as I will click on this particular table, you can see a plus sign on the left side. So it means that it has fetched the column names for this particular table. So if I click on the plus sign, then you can see all the available columns in this particular table, okay. So I want to select the data from the account table. So what I will do, I will simply drag and drop this particular table inside the query editor. So this is saying like select star from account, okay. So it has automatically generated the select statement. Now if you want to preview the data, so you can click on this particular option, preview data. So it will actually execute a real-time query on the database and it will get you the data. So you can see all these records. So without writing a single line of code, you know, we are able to see all the accounts from the Salesforce, okay. So this is the data. So I can close this one. So I want to fetch data from the Salesforce. So this is good. And here there is an option of using the variables as well. So you can use the either system variable or the user defined variable as well in the where statement, okay. So for now we are good here. So I can click on OK. So now this should be able to fetch the data from the Salesforce. Now I want to write the data into a SQL Server table. So I have my SQL Server instance here and I got the Devart database. So I want to insert the data into the Devart database into a SQL Server table. So I can use the OLEDB destination here. So I can write OLEDB and then I can just drag and drop the OLEDB destination into the data flow task. Now I can connect the Salesforce source component with the OLEDB destination and I can configure the OLEDB destination here. Click new to create a new connection manager. We already have a connection to the Devart database, so I can select this connection manager, click OK. From data access mode, we can select table or view fast load so that it can do the bulk insert. And now I can click new to create a new table for the account table. So I can give the table name as account and I can click on OK. So the account table got created on the database. Now I can click on the mappings to make sure that all input columns have been mapped with the destination columns. So they are already mapped, so I can click on OK. So our SSIS package is ready, which can fetch data from the Salesforce source and it can insert into a SQL Server table. So I can click on the start button and let's see how it goes. Alright, so you can see that the migration of data from Salesforce to SQL Server is successful, and I can also go back to the SQL Server and I can refresh the tables. And I should be able to see a table account here, and if I select the data from this table, so you should see the 13 records which got migrated from the Salesforce. Yeah, so you can see the 13 records here, okay. So this is working absolutely fine. Now this time we will try to migrate data from SQL Server to Salesforce, okay. So let me drag and drop another data flow task. Okay, and now I will call this particular data flow task as SQL Server to Salesforce. Okay, so this is what I will call this. Okay, and now I will click on the data flow task, and this time our source will be the SQL Server. So I can type OLEDB here, and we can use the OLEDB source to fetch the data from the SQL Server table. So what I have done is that I have created account table in another database for few records, I think for 5 records. So if I select the data from the access database from the account table, so I have the data for 5 records for name John Doe, Jenny Smith, Robert Johnson, all these records. Okay, so these are the 5 records. So I want to insert these 5 records, I want to migrate these 5 records from SQL Server to Salesforce. Okay, so you already saw that we were able to insert 13 records from the Salesforce to SQL Server. So now these 5 records will be inserted, so the total records on the Salesforce should be 18 after this particular migration. That we will see using the developer console option. So now let's use this particular select query to fetch the data from the access database. So I can copy this particular query from here. Okay, and then I can configure the OLEDB source here. From the tabular view, I can use the SQL command, and then I can paste the SQL command here. If you want to preview data, so you can also preview the data here as well. Now I can click on close. Okay, so we have configured the OLEDB source. Now it's time to configure the Salesforce destination. So I can type Salesforce here, and it should return me all the components related to Salesforce. So I can use the Salesforce destination here. So I can simply drag and drop the Salesforce destination into the data flow task. Now I can connect the OLEDB source with the Salesforce destination, and then I can configure the Salesforce destination here. Inside the connection manager, I can select the Devart Salesforce connection manager that we used in the previous example. Now I can click on the component properties. Okay, and the most important option here is the object name. So we want to transfer the data into the account table, so we can select the account option from here. Okay, and now we need to click on the column mappings. Okay, if you see here, we had very few columns like name, billing street, billing city, billing state, all these columns. Okay, so we need to map only those columns those we have in the source and in the destination. So the name is automatically got mapped, billing street, billing city, billing state, billing postal code, billing country. Okay, and the phone number, all the columns are got mapped automatically. If you see, none of the column is unmapped. If you have the data for other columns, then you can map them as well, but I have seen one of the issue that some of the columns in the Salesforce are read only, so you need to be careful like to which columns you want to insert the data to. Okay, so I'm going to insert the data onto these particular mapping columns. Okay, so I can click OK, and now we should be good to execute the SSIS package, and which can insert the data from SQL Server to Salesforce. So I can, for example, right click here in the data flow, and I can click on the execute task. I'm just showing you like how our SSIS package will work. Okay, and you can actually run the whole package as well, and which will actually execute all the tasks inside your SSIS package. So you can see that the migration of data from SQL Server to Salesforce is successful. Okay, so now I can go back to the Salesforce website. Okay, and then I can again open the developer console, so that I can verify that there should be 18 records there, and I can click on the query editor, and let me copy this particular query from here and paste the query here. Okay, so if I click on the execute, so now you can see that there are 18 records, and you can see these data: John Doe, Jenny Smith, last 5 records they were just inserted. Okay, suppose if you are playing with the Salesforce, you are trying to migrate data, and accidentally you inserted some data, and now you want to delete that data. So this is, other than this particular thing, but I'm just telling you because this can be helpful to, like, if you want to, for example, delete all these 5 records those you just inserted, so how you can delete them. So you can click on the debug option here, and then there is an option open execute anonymous window. So you can click on this one. Now inside this one, enter Apex code. What exactly you can do, you can write your select query, whatever select query you use to select the data. So you can paste the query here. Okay, now enclose this particular query inside the bracket. Okay, and then before the query you can write delete. Okay, and after the query you can put the semicolon. So what this query will do, this will delete all records. Okay, but we do not want to delete all records, we only want to delete the last 5 records, those we inserted. Okay, so what I have done, I'm using this where clause actually because I know that these 5 records were inserted. So I'm using this filter query, the where clause, so that only these accounts will be deleted. Okay, so after the table name you can actually put a space and then you can put the where condition here. So now only these 5 records will be deleted. So as soon as you have put this particular query, the select query, and then with the where clause, and then you have enclosed the query inside the bracket, and then before the query you can put the delete keyword here. Okay, and now you can click on execute. So this execute query will delete the 5 records, so that record should be deleted. Okay, if you want to recheck the data, so what we can do, we can click on the refresh grid. So now you can see that we have only 13 records now, the 5 records have been deleted. So guys, this was about like how you can migrate the data from the Salesforce to SQL Server, or from SQL Server to Salesforce, or even you can, for example, fetch data from any source. Like you can migrate data from CSV file, XML file, Excel file, or even from JSON file. So you can migrate data from any source to the Salesforce using the Devart SSIS components. So if you want to try their component, then you can go to this particular website, just download the trial version for 1 month and you can play with it. And they have a lot of components for different sources, for example for Oracle, and for example for the MySQL, and for a lot of different other things as well, like for QuickBooks as well. So I think that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching the video, and if you like the video then please click the like button, do subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon and click on all so that you will be notified every time you upload new video. Thank you so much.